Hello and welcome to another episode of Some Gear No Idea. It's a change of studio for me. That's why I've been away for a while. But today we're looking at an Oxford motorcycle battery charger. Now I've already had this in bits. I've saved the trouble of pulling it apart on camera. There's only 4 screws. Which sit in the bottom here, so there's nothing much to look at anyway. And I've had a look at the board just briefly, and at first I couldn't spot anything. I was specifically looking at the components, which is not where I needed to be looking, until I noticed, I'll just grab a pair of tweezers. I noticed this little wire. You may not be able to see it, but there's a little wire off here. What I'll do is on the screen I'll put on some microscope footage up in the corner so you can see this particular wire, because it might not be visible on the main view. And I also noticed that around on the upper side of this transformer, it's wrapped around, so I'm assuming that it's popped off for whatever reason, and it goes around this one. So I think that's what's going to be the repair. Now I've powered it on. There's absolutely nothing on the screen at all. So I think it's one of the taps off this transformer, I think, and that hopefully that would bring it back to life. The other caps look fine. There's no bulges that I can see. So I think it's just that why it's popped off. I don't know. I mean, I have been having trouble with it, and I'm just wondering just the environment that it's in. Although I would have thought that that's what it was built for. It was built for an environment, but like a cold environment. So, but yeah, so that's the board. I'm going to attempt to fix this today, get this on, and see if we can get it working. And that's the plan for today. I'm hoping that the lighting's okay for you. Yeah, I think I'm going to struggle I'm going to struggle stripping this wire, to be honest. And I'm assuming it's got to be fed through this ferrite, which I think with a pair of tweezers I should be able to get it through the ferrite. I think where I'm going to struggle is getting a soldering iron in. I think that's where it's going to be the difficult bit. I think feeding it through that ferrite, well, there you go, it's pretty much done, I think. But I think just getting a soldering iron in is going to be the difficult task. I think we'll have to see if I can get that ferrite on the other side down there, and then it's out of the way, and somehow try and get I'm assuming it's not going to need a lot, just a dab of solder down there to touch it onto that wire, and then it's tapped off. I'm assuming it's a tap to power some of the other, I don't know, maybe it powers the screen, or it's a tap to power some of these chips. So I'm assuming the power comes in, and this must be the diode, the full bridge rectifier, I think, and then obviously that comes in through the transformer and powers the rest of it. And it obviously gives it, well, it's got to be over 12 volts on it to charge, so I don't know, 14 volts perhaps or something into the battery to slowly trickle charge it. Yeah, so that's the plan, is to try and get that in through there. But I'm not looking forward to it, I must admit. Just getting you'll have to forgive me, because the screen's gone off on the camera, so I can't actually see whether it's in shot. I think it will be, but somehow I'm going to try and bend that ferrite round there. But the other thing I've got to do, of course, is strip this wire. So I think that I'm probably better off trying to do that. And the other thing I've got to be careful of is not twiddling with it too much and pulling it off the top. And that's the worrying thing about stripping it is pulling it and then pulling it out of the transformer. So trying to think of where I need a couple of pair of tweezers. I think I've got some larger tweezers which will hold this wire, and then I'll strip it. So that's the plan. I'm going to get set up for that, and then I will come back to you when I've stripped this wire. I may even go into try my hand at time lapse, so it's not as boring. But I think for a minute I'm just going to have to figure out the way to strip that without ripping it from the transformer. So that's where I'm up to. That's what we're doing. It's an Oxford Optimiser transformer. Is there anything on the back of the thing? It is an Optimiser 900B. That's the model number, and the output's 14.4 volts. So yeah, 14 volts to charge the battery. So that's where we are, and I'll come back to you when I've stripped this wire. Okay, so I must admit I'm struggling with this, and I seem to be just, absolutely wrecking it as I'm going along. I'm struggling to get the soldering iron in. So I'm wondering now, my next thing is to figure out, which is probably that, or that one. Let's get the meter out and then just run a wire around. I don't think that's obviously not going to reach, so get a small piece of wire and run that around and tap it off the bottom. I think that's probably favourite. So that's what the next thing I'm going to do is find a smaller piece of wire, maybe off a transformer, and see what I've got and do it that way. I think that might be favourite. So that's the next thing I'm going to try. And again, I'll time lapse this, I think, because otherwise it's just me faffing around for a while and it just moves it on a bit. Okay, so I've put a wire from that tap and I've pulled it round and I've attached it, soldered it to there. Whether this will work, I have no idea. Which is pretty much what the channel's called, to be honest. So yeah, what I'm going to do is stick, I'm going to put the screws in, put it all together, and then we'll test it together by plugging it in and seeing what happens. So I'll time lapse putting it together and then we can carry on. Okay, so this is a quick one. I'll level with you. Whilst whilst the camera's charging, I got impatient, so I did plug it in, and it didn't work. So whilst the camera was still charging, but it's obviously not on a fixed point at the moment, I started having a quick look at the board, looking for the fuse. So I found the fuse, which is, I'll just grab something to point with. So that there is the fuse, and it's blown. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to desolder it, take it out, and check all this sleeving off to find out what it is, and then look to possibly replace it. I mean, I haven't looked at how much these things are online and see whether it's actually even worth it. So I'm going to desolder this. I'll have to do it off camera because this is still charging and need two hands. So I'm going to desolder this, pull it out, strip it, and then I'll come back to you. Okay, so I'm just recording just again off the camera, but the camera audio this time, rather than plugging everything back into the setup, because I found a fuse. Now it's much larger than in size than what was in previously. It's still a 1 amp though, and I want to see whether I can just sort of solder this to it and then solder these into the board and see what happens. It's a bit sketchy, but you know, this wire should be able to take an amp, no problems. And again, it's just for a test. If it does work, then I'll buy a smaller sized fuse and run that in. So what we'll do is I'm just going to tin these wires. I need to move my helping hands to the new space, but I just haven't done that yet. So I'm going to put power into this now. This board will then become live, and no doubt if it doesn't work, you'll see some flash bangs and everything will go out. Haha, okay. So we have power, but no screen. Let's try that again. Aha! Okay, so that tap seemed to have worked. And the fuse is held. Obviously it's showing 0 volts and 0 amps at the moment. So now that I know that that does work, I'll go ahead and order a smaller fuse, I think. And I think, you know, what I'll do is I'll leave it plugged in on a timer, so when I'm here at the studio, it can be on, and then overnight when I'm not here, it can stay off, I think. But that's good news. Yeah, okay, so that's good news. Yeah, so I'm going to get that ordered. I'm going to get a smaller fuse ordered, smaller in size. It's still an amp, so that 1 amp fuse is just obviously too big. Looks completely janky and sketchy, which it is, but it's not going to stay like that. So just on reflection, that I went back in and decided to do it somewhat properly. So for a temporary fuse is sealed in heat shrink and pushed into the board. Now it sits in fine. Some tape on the back just so it doesn't short out, but it's not going anywhere anyway, I don't think. So yeah, so it's literally just peace of mind now. I don't think I'm going to use it anyway, to be fair. I am going to change that fuse out, but just leaving it the way it was wrapped in tape, even though it wasn't being used, I wasn't impressed with it anyway. So I decided that I should do something, reasonably properly. So that's the repair for now. It's a temporary repair, and yeah, so that's just a little update for a temporary repair. So yeah, if you like what you see, like, share, subscribe. Take care. Speak soon.